terrible for war. But again, I would not be that surprised, only because there are people in this country who do identify with radical Islam.
My former colleague, Congressman Peter King of New York, responding yesterday on this program to the news that the ISIS leader shown in that latest video could very well be American. As we welcome you into America's Forum on this Thursday morning, let's update you with the latest. Intelligence officials continue to scrutinize that videotape, trying to identify that man with ISIS. Meanwhile, after the beheading of those 21 Coptic Christians, ISIS lays claim to more territory in Libya, increasing fears of a new North African base for jihadists. For more on this developing story, we're joined by Congressman Ted Yoho of Florida. Ted's a member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. We're also joined from Newsmax, Washington, by former Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan, who is the president of Flanagan Consulting. Gentlemen, to you both, we thank you very much. And Ted, as you join us by phone from your district in Stark, Florida, what have you heard about this alleged American on that videotape for ISIS?
You know, the information we're getting is these are people that have a passport, they travel over there, and they get involved in that. And, you know, that, to me, is one of the scariest things, because you're seeing homegrown terrorists in America, and that's something that's never happened, and it's not acceptable.
Michael Patrick Flanagan, if this report proves to be true, that is an American on videotape, what does that portend for the future?
It's unthinkable, but we have such a disaffected youth in this country in a lot of ways. I mean, we've pushed God out of our lives. We've pushed reality out of our lives. We've pushed out of our lives an absolute belief in right and wrong. And youth is often very dissuaded by these things. And because we have people now running around the world doing evil things, doesn't really surprise me. They do evil things right here in this country, the school shootings and other things. We have to find these kids and make them better here. And if this guy is really an American over there, we have to reach out and grab him in some way we can, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, reach out and grab him, not with a hug, not with understanding, but stopping Americans involved in terror. Geopolitically, Congressman Yoho, Italy sent 4,800 troops to protect its border. Of course, that same fighter said Rome is now in the sights of ISIS. You're on that subcommittee for North Africa on the Committee for Foreign Affairs. Is it a legitimate concern that ISIS could move forward with some sort of action in Italy, or specifically in Rome?
No, it absolutely is, and that's the problem is, you know, number one, we're seeing them spread throughout the world, really. But the Middle East, they've got the largest foothold they've ever had, any terrorist group. And this terrorist group, if you look at where the origination of this was, they spawned out of Al-Qaeda after our president said that Al-Qaeda is on the run and that they're just a JV team. There was 200-300 of these members that were so vile and so violent that Al-Qaeda disowned them. But that group of 200 to 300 people in 3 years has become a force of 30 to 40,000 people. They've got approximately $2 billion worth of assets. They're the best funded terrorist organization in the world, and the best armed. And the armament that they have came from the U.S., the majority of that. And it's our broken foreign policy that is allowing them to spread throughout the world. We pulled out of Iraq against the generals and the military experts' recommendation, and we left a vacuum, and that vacuum is going to be filled with the person willing to step up, and that is, unfortunately, this Islamic terrorist organization that you see just terrorizing the world, and it's not acceptable. And as far as that American, number one, we need to verify, trust but verify. We need to verify and make sure if this person is an American, and if so, go back and deal with the situation. And we've got a broken system right now, and there's so many people that are concerned about this, and this is one of the reasons I got into Congress is, we have got to get back to the rule of law and define who we are as a nation. And our allies don't know if they can trust or depend on us, and our enemies don't fear or respect us. And I really don't care if they fear us, but they ought to respect what we say, and we mean what we say, and we need to follow through with that.
Ted and Michael Patrick, we're going to step aside for a minute to have a break, and then we're going to bring you gentlemen back. We might also note that we saw a parade of new vehicles festooned with ISIS flags. One of the questions we'll have is basically Libya, in essence, the next Iraq in terms of a center for threats to American interests and to worldwide interests, counter to those of ISIS. That and more, Congressman Ted Yoho and former Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan. Stay with us. You do too, next on America's Forum. Welcome back to America's Forum. President Obama, the featured speaker yesterday at the White House-sponsored Summit on Violent Extremism. Well, as Egypt, Jordan, and other nations strike back at ISIS militarily, does the ongoing summit at the White House really strike the right tone for the United States? Let's continue the conversation now with Congressman Ted Yoho, who joins us by phone from Florida, and former Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan from Newsmax, Washington. Ted, we watched this summit. Is that just a PR exercise?
I think that'll be vetted out down the road. My feeling is, yes, it is. It's a feel-good thing on something that's very serious. When you have the President of the United States unwilling to identify who the terrorists are as Islamic radical jihadists, how can you solve a problem? It's like anybody else said, if you've got a spending problem and you don't recognize that, you can't really solve it. And then, they're putting the emphasis on we've got to listen to what the concerns are so we can deal with it here at home in our own country. I disagree with that. I think it's never wrong to listen to what's going on around you, but we've got a broken foreign policy, and for this administration and their spokesman for the State Department yesterday saying that the root problem is they don't have jobs and our role should be to help build democracies and jobs over there. I think they're way off base. That is not the role of the federal government. And the real reason is they don't like Western ideology. They don't want us in their country. And what we've done in the past has kind of led us up to this point in the sense that when you go into Iraq and Afghanistan, if you don't have a clear defined mission on why you're there or what you're going to do and what the end game is, you get the situation where Al-Qaeda got beat down, but then you walk away and you get this radical Muslim or Islamic jihadist movement that moves in and fills the void, and they're there with a vengeance. And they're fighting. Congressman Flanagan said, we got to get God back into a lot of these principles in our country that we were founded on, and I agree. We're taking God out of this country. They're fighting for their God, and all I can say is the person that has God on their side is going to win this. And I think we all need to kind of huddle around and get back to some basics in this country.
Congressman, I couldn't agree more, and thank you for that. Let me ask you this. When we pulled out of Iraq and the military left and the president improvidently left, Maliki came back to the United States and said, sell me some helicopters. He came back and said, sell me some arms. King Abdullah would like to buy some stuff, too. Are we ready to sell him some stuff? Is Congress ready to do that?
Yes, the sentiment is yes, we need to supply these people with lethal weapons. The reason is this fight is over there. It's more so their fight, and we need to make sure they have the armament and have them be willing to invest into their own countries and put their own troops and their own boots on the ground and not American troops on the ground.
Ted, in the 2 minutes that remain, we should note another subject of vital importance that's been in the news this week. You represent Florida, a state that would likely be affected by the president's proposed amnesty program. In your mind, did the federal judge in Texas do the right thing by putting a halt to that program?
Absolutely, and I can't applaud him enough for standing up and sticking with the rule of law and the Constitution and stopping this president's overreach of his executive authority. He does not have the authority to do what he's doing. He says he has prosecutorial discretion, and indeed he does on an individual basis, but not on 5 million people. Absolutely not. We were not going to tolerate it. and the president will wind up losing this, but the American people will win on this issue.
It's a great observation, Congressman. Do you think the Senate will be able to give some kind of legislation that will get the department funded, either with or without the stopping of Obama now that the court has acted?
Well, that's the beauty of this bill, and yes, I think the Senate will. You know, the American people sent us up there to do a job. They gave us the largest majority we've had in 90 years. We wrote a good bill. We passed a good bill from the House. And that bill, the DHS bill, funds the Department of Homeland Security, funds our Coast Guard, it funds our Border Security, and the whole department to do the things they're supposed to do. The only thing it doesn't fund is the processing of the illegal action that this president wants to give work visas to 5 million people at once. That's the only part it doesn't do. So there's no reason for him to hold it up, especially when you have Judge Heenan out of Texas saying, what he's doing is illegal. In addition, Jay Johnson from the Department of Homeland Security says we're not moving forward on processing anybody because there is this question of the legality of what he's doing. So he's going to stop. So the Senate needs to pass this bill so that we can get on with our business, and then we can deal with immigration the way we're supposed to. And I don't know anybody in America or in Congress that's not for responsible immigration reform, and that's what we need to do.
Congressman Ted Yoho, we thank you for your time. Mike Flanagan, stick around, and you come back as well when we talk about the terrorist who claims to be a romance man.